I read the first chapter of the book wherein you explain that the idea of pakiramdam is multi-directional, all of a sudden I was struck with that whole idea because we were really working on how does the body approach directions in space in multi-directionality, because in the history of modern dance, Merce Cunningham of the 60s and the 70s has really changed dance by virtue of approaching the space as multi-direction. I think after the last conversation with Katrin, what some of the major insights have become very, very clear for me. And that connected to the question of what is actually really being pursued by this residency. What has become very clear based on the questions that we have been the whole idea of a system. I'm thinking that for our residency, the dancer as a new system of moving should start from the floor, lying down, nice. And then getting up, like a kind of an awareness. My awareness of my body on the floor is an awareness of the space as I go erect, and then standing up. And then the whole idea should be working on concentric circles that will actually expand my awareness of my environment. So the classes should start from here, and then it goes here, and then it goes back to a second concentric circle into a much bigger circle all the time. So maybe, which is changing the way a dance class is being taught. A dance class is usually in square like this. So I'm facing the left side and I'm facing the right side. Then after that, I go across the floor. Then the movement is going like this or diagonal like this. So then the world order is changing. So the world order has become circles, and so eventually it will create a completely different way of partnering with someone else.
Exactly.
They are two concentric circles as opposed to a space wherein wherein just two bodies are coming together.
You know, for me this is so interesting because even the concept of installation, for example, it always uses space in a very different three-dimensional way rather than painting, which is this flat piece of paper where everything is linear and stays linear, and you just work with illusion. You don't have the senses involved of going around, of touching, of feeling, of stepping back, seeing it from the far. It's entirely different, and this is Western. The Western education made everything square, and it's good to unsquare it because the world is round.
From the first concentric circle, the dancer would be gradually become aware of a space that is probably outside the frontier of his usual range of motion. And so he would initially venture out into a much bigger space as awareness. And as he go to a much bigger awareness of space, he expands and become more aware of another layer of space and awareness. So in the end, you have the dancer in his body, then the dancer in an immediate surrounding, and the dancer in a much bigger space, maybe in relation to a lot of other components in a much wider environment.
And for dance or for movement, to me, it would be this amazing flexibility to go exactly in multi-dimensional space and to feel something, to change your movement last second and go another direction, because that's what people here do with their lives, and it's annoying, but it's chaotic. It's chaotic, but it is a pattern that one should not deny people. Aitas, if you look at the Aita movement, at their dances, it's so minimalist. What they do is they feel space, you know, they vibrate themselves into
different feeling of space and time.
Exactly. But they see much more than somebody who just has a figure in mind, because it goes your inner space is so extended.
As part of a new contemporary dance system will try to marry the idea of the principles in new science and Filipino psychology, hoping that when you combine these two school of thoughts, these two universes, maybe it could create a new one complete circle. In the end, it becomes the same illustration. The dancer, the marriage of Filipino psychology and new science. And by putting these two together, also will probably answer some of the major questions about contemporary dance in the Philippines.
One of the theories I use there, which is constructivism, the theory of constructivist psychology, but constructivism is found in anything else, no? Basically what it says is you construct your own reality, and collectively you also construct your own reality, and as mankind we are constructing our reality, and we are actually free to create something else. And again, I find this is a very Filipino concept.
It probably should really take an outsider, I mean, to understand that whole constructivist approach and apply it into the Filipino psychology. I think creates a completely different way to make me understand it a little bit more.
That's where Dr. Lagmay, and he was really like, he was Skinner's student, you know, for how many years, master student of Skinner. Now, Lagmay was his student, and his master's student, and in Harvard, no? And then yet he came back and became one of the fathers of Filipino psychology. And he explained this once, and this is exactly what you talk about. He said something like, if you always have rules and if everybody follows rules, it's very easy for the government to control you, he says. And it's much better if you don't follow the rules, because you can't be controlled. Now, in world government, you really think about it, it is good that some people are not just swimming, you know, straight lines. I think these people, to me, that's how I see the Philippines, as the natural rebellious element on the planet that will just not submit. And I find it personally a law of economy. If you, with your car, you find every small space, you know, you maximize space. It's I find it personally a talent. It annoys me sometimes, but I cannot help but seeing the talent of subversion, the talent of creativity. If you're creative, you can't just follow patterns and lines.
Maybe Filipino drivers are too creative. That's why
They're too creative.
It's crazy.
But on the other hand, you learn to be flexible, and that's a strength. If you decolonize, then you can come to the true strength that are in the Filipino culture.
All the principles that we are doing in the residency as a research could also be termed in some of these terms, like decolonizing. We're now working on idea of hyper-isolation. So then the whole body is divided into small parts, which is not necessarily how you deal in the Western mode of dancing, which is usually like limbs as one part, then the whole torso as one part. But maybe here we're working on like creating small movement, even appropriating a way of the which is so Asian to actually do so many things with my hands and mudras. So I'm thinking maybe hyper-isolation now could be called decolonizing the body.
This is about basically about how faith healers heal, because they address every cell of the body. And it's all isolated parts, but they form together.
Hyper-isolation, Reg.
Hyper-isolation.
Oh my God. Shit. Legit.
And this is this faith healer Alex Orbito also explained this, that all he does is talk to the cells, and the same is known also from this Marlowe.
Yes.
It's the cell, not like
Talk to the
muscles or
cells.
like organs.
Yeah, talk to the cells, and they, and if you talk to them, they understand you.
I guess also in the end what it's trying to do is to integrate itself because of the conflict that it has by experience. So, and the assimilation I have been experiencing for the long time, I guess, has created a completely different perspective from our end to see it as a cultural integration and how it could create, and from that impasse actually maybe something else could be created, because we're like almost like trapped into the whole Western education no matter what we do.
So if you
the whole
name
idea is to expose it and
expose
admit it for what it is.
That's Angel Shaw also. Have you read the chapter on
Not
Angel
yet,
Shaw already?
yeah.
Because that's what she does. She even, in fact, she says, you can be first so long the victim, but then if you can name it and accept it and go beyond the guilt that it was so long like that, then you can be freeing yourself from it, and you can actually create something entirely new. In the academy, you just have to have a say. You have to know how to say it, and that you don't want to come up with methods, but use Patalana as your method. It's just a matter of time of naming it often enough, saying this is what Enriquez did. He had so many Filipino research methods, and Pakiram Daman, and Pakipakapa, like groping around. That is a method. That is a method. It's a very clear, and you can back it up with phenomenology of Europe. But phenomenology, what they did in America with it, is something different. It's up there. It's like very theoretically. And in Europe, where you have multilingual societies, so many, it's a matter of finding common denominators. And Kapwa, in a way, is the same thing. We find the deepest common denominator among people, which is being human. It has absolutely beautiful, harmonious, balanced elements that are embedded in Filipino myth, in Filipino religion, animist religion, society. So that it got corrupted is a challenge, it's a crisis. And I believe, how could the Philippines have avoided this crisis if the whole world goes through this crisis? So coming through this, coming out of it, means you, having experienced this crisis, become a healer. You first have to heal yourself, and then you can heal others. If you do contemplation or meditation in a space like America, the inner worlds are empty. If you really think about it, it's like they are empty. There's no dreams, no hopes, no wishes. Everything gets stuck in the mental. Like the etheric is not filled except with characters. There are no, plants are not alive. They're animals. I mean, it's a generalization, no? But that's the only thing. And here, if you go, everything is full, everything is animated, no? And it's the same. This thing, it doesn't even, it's just everything is full. Everything is. You can interact with plants, with trees, with people, with the street, with rocks, with everything is alive, no? And that's what I was reminded here in the Philippines. The heavens will be always full, full. The clouds, everything speaks.
The contemporary dancer in the 21st century, as a Filipino, is trying to engage the parallelisms or connection between new science and Filipino psyche. And this creates a kind of a dialogue that creates a kind of a lemniscate dynamics between these two components. And as the Filipino contemporary dancer tries to engage these two, he is actually engaging in a much bigger question of how the Filipino contemporary dance is engaging questions about his cultural identity and also his function in the social and cultural reality of the Philippines by virtue of big discourse about his past as a colonial victim and a future, or a kind of a direction from where he could actually either free himself or liberate himself from such a position. So that engages contemporary dance from its local perspective, engaging a global discourse in a global contemporary dance platform. So in the end, this residency would like to be able to create its own system and then maybe present it to dance festivals, international dance festivals abroad, and engage them into what are the questions that were asked and what are the insights that we have discovered, and also engage a lot of other dance companies based in the Philippines, probably all over the Philippines, and create a much bigger awareness of other questions that might be eventually become a more relevant or bigger questions based on the idea of contemporary art.